Australia I was born. Heave away, haul away. In South Australia and Cape Horn. Bound for South Australia. All the way you rolling king. Heave away, haul away. All the way you'll hear me sing. Bound for South Australia.
Is there. So, hi Dan, thanks for talking to me this evening. It's a bit sunny where I am at the moment. What about with you?
It's a bit rainy and drizzly where I am, to be honest. It's not been very nice.
Well, thank you so much for, like I said, having a chat with us. It's really great to have you as the first guest on the Oh the Tales We Tell show. And I know that obviously we've spoken before and you've done some really, really amazing work, especially during the lockdowns. So hats off to you, and we'd really love to hear some kind of information about that, really, and hopefully share some of that work with our lovely audience. But I mean, one of the first things that I quite like to ask our guests, and I thought I'd try it out with yourself, is you know, considering we're not able to meet up in person right now, I thought it'd be nice to play a little imagination game, and if we were able to meet up in person right now, where would we be in Cornwall? What would we be up to? What's your ideal day out?
Well, to be honest, my ideal day out is something that usually involves walking and talking. That's how I like to conduct my meetings.
Nice.
I feel it's good for getting the mind to process things, just one foot in front of the other.
Love it.
And yeah, hopefully then ending up at a pub.
Sounds good to me. Any place in particular?
Any place in particular? I mean, I always love the walks around where I'm from, Lothian, and ending up at the Globe Inn. It's so cozy there. Everyone's super friendly. Walks along the river.
Yeah, sounds brilliant. I mean, that would be a great place to have an interview.
Yeah.
So obviously, I was just saying about very briefly about your work. In your own words, please do tell us a little bit about your work during lockdown, and especially, obviously, more recently, the Kernow project that you've just worked on, because obviously you were very kind enough, as was the Bedroom Choir, to let us use one of your tracks for our intro.
Yeah, so as you say, the Kernow Bedroom Choir, it's really interesting how this project is what it's turned into. When it started out just a really kind of simple phone call between myself and Finn at Interbodman.
Yeah.
Thinking, well, what should we do? You know, I've just lost all my work, and Finn, now you can't hold all these amazing events you've just put on for the summer. Should we try and do something which gives back to the community? And kind of after just like a 20-minute phone call, the Kernow Bedroom Choir was born. And a year later, we're still working on projects, and we've still got ideas coming through. And that it feels really great that just out of that moment of spontaneity, of reaction, we're still going. We're still trying to get people singing, and it's yeah. So the Kernow Bedroom Choir was a reaction to how can we keep people singing through lockdown, essentially.
Brilliant, and it's such a wholesome project as well. You know, it's something that can really bring quite a lot of people together.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's not only touched the people who have engaged directly, but we've also just, for every video we've put out, we've had amazing messages of, I'm in South Australia, or I'm in California, or I'm in New Zealand, and I'm loving it. This is the songs that my granddad used to sing. And it's really heartwarming to see people's connection back to Cornwall from so many places in the world.
Yeah, no, and obviously the songs themselves are just so beautifully sung, and I think what was lovely to watch was, of course, that people didn't have to be professional singers to get involved. You did a great job teaching them how they could sing in their own homes.
Did I teach people, or did they just know the songs already? I don't know.
But your tutorials were so good because there was that learning aspect that went with it as well. Because even if it was songs that people might not necessarily know that well, you know, they may have hummed to it if they heard it at some point.
Yeah, so I think from it's a strange one as a well, not a strange one, but I'm a professional musician, and one of the things that frustrates me about being professional sometimes is that then people don't want to play with me because they don't think they're good enough. And that was like probably the most heartbreaking thing that happens to me, is that they hear the word professional and they think, oh, you have to be really good to be able to join in, and I'm just like, no. I love playing with anybody, and like, community music is a really big part of what I do as a professional. And it's getting people involved, it's creating inclusivity and getting people to have ownership over the things that they're doing. And that's like you say, the beauty of these songs. Maybe people know them, but everybody feels a sense of pride and ownership over these songs because they're grounded in our community. They've been sung at the pubs or like at funerals or weddings and this, that, and the other. And they're part of the landscape.
So tell us a little bit about your work with Gweno then as well, because I know that obviously that spurred on from the bedroom choir work.
Yeah, so the Gweno project is really interesting. So Sound UK, who are based in Bristol, they've created a map, an interactive map of the UK to represent music in lockdown.
Wow.
So I think you can still log on even now actually and say, I was listening to this song, or I wrote this song even. And then you can put a little pin drop and say, you know, this is the song I wrote during lockdown, or the song I loved, and look at the map of everybody uploading them. So I know like some guys like Richard Trethewey, for example, uploaded one about, you know, the Trethewey mining heritage. I think the Stows uploaded one as well from Padstow. So that was one part of their project.
Sure.
And then the next part was to commission artists in different areas to write a song about lockdown in that area. So obviously Gweno was chosen to write the song for Cornwall. And I think they planned on delivering it all live, and then obviously lockdown 3.0 happened.
Yeah. The return.
I think with friends we're calling them the dark months.
Oh, brilliant.
Because January and February were just
yeah, I've tended to just call them different installments in the same way that it's like installments of the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
like Town to Who, the Twin Towers, you know, it's just yeah.
I mean the third one definitely starts pretty dark, doesn't it? So
oh, it certainly does. But you know, the work with Gweno,
so projects like this
really
helped me and my mental health through January and February. And yeah, so Gweno was commissioned to write a song. She did a survey of what people's thoughts were about being in Cornwall during lockdown. And the main message that she got back was that people were just really thankful of all the key workers, NHS staff, you know, everybody who held the community together. And that's why the song is titled Miraz the Agerno, which means thank you from Cornwall. So I was asked by Sound UK and the other funders to deliver the project online, which worked perfectly because obviously that's what I've been doing anyway, is delivering choir projects. So it was a really good match. Had some lovely chats with Gweno and Polly from Sound UK. How are we going to do this? Should we do it like this? Should we do it like that? We decided to kind of stick to the most original format that I'd come up with because it was the most inclusive, we felt. And it was the easiest for people to engage with, and particularly because it's Cornish language, it's difficult. You know, I struggled to sing it, so
it's difficult to speak. Let alone sing. That's incredible though, and obviously what a beautiful song as well.
Yeah, it's so gorgeous. Yeah, it was stuck in my head for weeks.
So obviously your work does concentrate quite a lot on the Cornish spirit, let's say, and language and the sense of place that comes with that, and you talked about thankfulness. What do you think makes Cornish identity so strong?
What do I think makes Cornish identity so strong? It's a very probing question. I like it.
Thanks very much. I wrote it myself.
It's funny. So part of my lockdown story as a musician is I've become a researcher. So I've started doing a master's in ethnomusicology, and this is one of the questions I've been asking in one of my papers.
Sure.
How do we express a Cornish identity? What even is a Cornish identity?
Yeah, exactly.
And like as a researcher, it's hard to give a proper answer because everybody thinks quite differently. Mm-hmm. I think one of the lovely phrases I've come up with is the Cornish can argue about anything.
And that should definitely be part of the identity.
Whether it's, and all these, I think all these very hotly debated topics, even the constitutional status of what Cornwall is.
Yeah.
Everybody's got an opinion.
Which way round a scone goes.
Yeah.
Everyone's got an opinion.
Even like there's so many different factions of the Cornish language even.
Yeah.
So I think if I were to say it more personally, pride probably is one of the biggest things that comes into a Cornish identity.
Yeah.
I think everybody who I speak to about Cornwall and its place is very proud.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think that's an exclusive thing.
No.
I think because if it was, then I wouldn't be able to call myself Cornish because my parents didn't grow up there. So
yeah.
But I was born and raised in Cornwall, so I feel Cornish.
Yeah, and this is the thing, and it's weird. So I was originally born in Southampton, but I actually spent a lot of my childhood growing up between Southampton and Saltash. So it was quite a commute for like a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
But you're right, of course. There's this pride aspect, but actually, yeah. I mean, I couldn't say that I'm Cornish, but I'm very proud of where I live and the place that we get to share.
One of the things I think for me that made me learn and experience what it felt to be Cornish was by leaving Cornwall, which is a little bit sad that I had to leave to experience that. Mm-hmm. But through, for example, there was one moment and it really sticks in my mind. I was sat on a train, the Central Line, going to Leighton, which is in East London.
Yeah.
I was going to go do some music teaching. Or maybe I was coming back. And there was a woman, and she was having a bit of an upset conversation with a guy who it looked like there was a romantic connection between them. And then the guy left, and woman sat opposite me on the train, was crying. And I was like, I'm not just going to sit here and not talk to this woman who's crying. She looks so sad. Like, I can't, this is breaking my heart. It looks like they've just broken up. Turns out they had just broken up.
Oh.
And there was a couple of little twangs in her accent. I was like, where are you from? And she's I'm from Truro. I was like, no way. I'm from Lostwithiel. And she's like, oh, of course you're bloody Cornish. The only nice person who'll come up and speak to somebody on the train crying.
Brilliant.
It was really interesting because then we sat and just talked about, oh yeah, Cornish people are just lovely.
Yeah.
You talk to any of them.
Mm-hmm.
About the weather, about what's going on with the rugby, about the weather some more.
Yeah, this is it. About music.
About music, yeah.
There you are. Yeah, no, that you've hit the nail on the head. I think it's a very helpful community, isn't it? The Cornish look out for one another quite a lot of the time.
Yeah, definitely. I think I don't want to get down the super cheesy route.
No.
The motto is one and all.
That's very true, exactly. And I mean, so if we're talking then, kind of leads nicely into the next question in a way. If we're talking about helping one another, obviously, like I said, you very kindly have lended us the sea shanty for our theme song for this podcast. So what do you think about the re-emergence of sea shanties during this last year and a bit, considering helping one another and the old work songs of the sea?
Am I allowed to swear on this podcast?
I would try and keep it PG.
All right, I ruddy love it.
That's allowed. That's allowed.
It's been fascinating to watch,
Right.
as an observer and as somebody who's been plugging sea shanties for a while, to just kind of sit back and go, oh, people aren't going to think I'm so lame now.
Exactly. You know, a sea shanty being turned into a dance track.
Yeah, exactly. I think, you know, fashions come in ebbs and flows, you know, and it's been, I think, a twist in the tale for sea shanties to have emerged so strong in 2021. But I think it's absolutely wonderful. I think it can only, I mean, I'm now sick of the Wellerman, to be honest. I've heard it too many times, but it will trickle down into further interest, not only into traditional songs, but it will filter down into like traditional seafaring culture as well. You know, I'm sure they're all now, later in 2021, come autumn, we'll all be wearing knitted jumpers and Aran things, and you know, it will have a knock-on effect, and
it will.
It's not just for Cornwall, and you know, Cornwall as a seafaring nation, it's all the Celtic nations. Hopefully we'll be able to get some kind of benefit in the way that we perceive the cultural tourism.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I think that's debatably, that's something that's been missing in Cornwall particularly, is the idea of cultural tourism. Whereas in Scotland, in Ireland, it's quite established.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. And I mean, hey, let's hope that once the Sea Shanty Festival is allowed back up and running properly in person in Falmouth, we can maybe go and listen to some songs together when you're back down. Yeah,
definitely. And on sea shanties, I've been having a little chat with Cornwall Pride.
Exciting.
About how we could. I love sea shanties. Don't get me wrong, but I am a 21st century man.
And yeah, I understand.
I am a feminist, an intersectional feminist at that. Yeah, so I'm having a conversation with Cornwall Pride about how we can maybe bring them up to date a little bit, and make them a bit more accessible to some of the broader community.
Wow, that sounds like a very exciting project altogether. And well, I also have a contact that I could give you maybe for Queer Kernow. And yeah, they're really, really brilliant. They've worked with the museum a lot, and they've been looking through archives and trying to get the queer community through history a little bit more well known and well documented. So I'll be more than happy to drop you a message with their details.
Yeah, that'd be great. I've actually bought them on Instagram. I've been following them. Some really excellent they're coming up with.
Sophie will be more than over the moon to hear about this, I'm sure.
Great. The more the merrier that are on board. Yeah.
Oh, well, you're going to have to keep us posted about that, because that sounds really exciting.
Great.
Definitely. So I suppose we've been chatting for a little while now. Thought this might be quite a nice question to end on. What are your top 5 things that you're looking forward to in Cornwall this year? I know that's a big question. There's a lot to be excited about. You know, the world's slowly starting its engine back up. But what are your top 5 things that you're most looking forward to? And it doesn't have to be, you know, an event or anything like that. What are you looking forward to about Cornwall?
I am looking forward to, I think that the main thing I'm looking forward to is, so I've got some amazing friends in Cornwall, and what I've noticed is that people of my age all tend to either still live with or have incredibly close contact with their parents who are of a more vulnerable age.
Yeah.
To be honest, I'm just mainly looking forward to being able to hug my friends and not feel guilty.
Yeah, definitely.
That's definitely number one.
Yeah, hitting the nail on the head there.
Number 2 is singing with people in person.
Yeah.
Preferably not 2 meters apart.
Make it a lot easier.
Yeah.
A lot easier.
Yeah, I don't know. I think for me, I was having a conversation with someone a month or 2 ago, and I think I came to the realization it's actually those more community-based things that have had a more detrimental effect on my mental health, not being able to do them, than has been being on stage. Being on stage is amazing, but there's something about making music, like cooperatively making music with everybody and anybody, that I feel it boosts my mental health so much. It's so good for the soul.
Oh, definitely. And you've made a really good point there, because I think all artists, no matter where they're from, will probably definitely be feeling the same there. It's so difficult.
Yeah, it's been
rough
year.
Yeah, we've been lucky enough to have the projects that we have, though, because I know that certainly the stuff that I was doing was keeping me sane as well.
It's interesting because it feels like obviously I like receiving praise for the choir. That's lovely. But part of me is like, do you know what? I don't know what I would have done without such a like in-depth creative project at this point. I was kind of doing it for me as well.
Yeah. And but that's not selfish in the slightest. It really isn't, because actually, again, you've hit the nail on the head. It's exactly the answer that I would give. It was weird. It's weird being creative and not being able to share it in the same way that you're so used to. In the same way that, performing on a stage is great because you have the audience there in front of you. You can see them, you can interact with them. Suddenly, you're stuck behind a screen where you just get a load of likes.
I definitely had to get over my fear of posting stuff online.
Definitely.
That's been a big one for me this last year. Just like, well, I guess that has to just go. That fear just has to be gotten rid of, because now I'm doing a project which engages specifically for other people to engage. So I'm not such a fan of the self-promotion because it makes me feel like I'm really arrogant.
I understand that completely. It's weird. It's a very weird space to be in, because of course if you were performing live, that wouldn't really it wouldn't feel odd.
No, not at all. Like
to advertise, I'm doing a gig and I'd really like you to turn up.
But it's even just like when you're at the gig, then you say, "Oh, my next gig is."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You seem to be enjoying this.
Yeah. Would you maybe be interested in hearing more of this?
No, all right, I'm off.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, good seeing you. So maybe leave us with one more thing that you're excited about in Cornwall.
Okay, this one will be an event, and this one I'm so fingers crossed hoping that it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And that's Luenda Perrin.
Oh, go on.
So Luenda Perrin is the Cornish Celtic music festival. And it's been, the last couple of years, it's been run down at Hotel Bristol in Newquay.
Yeah.
It's very much because my journey into like the Cornish traditional music is actually quite young. It's only been going on for like 2.5-3 years. And that's kind of where it all kicked off for me. Was going and playing there and then going, oh my God, this is so much fun.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, so like Kaylee's until 1 a.m. and then
love it.
Singing until you drop.
Yep.
Yeah, and just engaging in that wider community. Doesn't matter who you're dancing with, whether it's granny or whether it's 8-year-old. You're dancing with everybody because everyone's there to have fun and just be a community together. And that's always in like end of October, start of November. So fingers crossed.
Definite fingers crossed.
It might actually happen. and that would make 2021 a happy year if I got to go and do that.
Dan, thank you so much. That was absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for talking to us as well. This has been really lovely to catch up. Yeah, thank you again for all the hard work that you've done, and I'm so glad that we were able to help share this around and get more people involved. And please do keep us posted, like I said, with any of those future projects. They sound very, very exciting.
Yeah, well, it's always a pleasure, and yeah, just thanks for having me. Good to chat.
Yeah, as always.
I didn't waffle too much, but
no, not at all. That was absolutely spot on. Thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.
Cheers.